everyone. Greetings. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Brown Girls Are Beautiful. Heute ist Mittwoch, everybody. Today is Wednesday, October the 1st. Can y'all believe it? We are in the last quarter of the year, everybody. So we definitely got to make this time count. Every single day is important on this earth, y'all. And if you have not heard, the government has undergone a shutdown. The government has undergone a shutdown, y'all. And I'm going to actually pull up an article and I'm going to read this to y'all because unfortunately, I guess they could not come to a decision. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. All right, here we go, y'all. It says here the shutdown. U.S. government shuts down after Senate fails to pass a spending bill. Now, everybody knows this has something to do with the benefits and the Medicaid, Medicare, all these type of things that assist the American people. Well, your president has said that he can make changes to these things, right? So they need to come to some type of speedy agreement because as of now, the government has shut down. So the funding to keep the federal government running expires after Republicans and Democrats fail to reach a deal. This is why I was making the video earlier where I said we all need to come together and get along in unity, right? All of the divisiveness needs to stop. This Republican versus Democrat, this left wing versus right wing, all of that needs to stop. Divisiveness is not going to solve this issue, right? Now, it says here, and this was posted on October 1st, 2025 by John Power. I'm looking at Al Jazeera. The United States government has partially shut down after last-ditch efforts by lawmakers to pass a spending bill failed. Funding to keep the federal government running expired on Wednesday after Democrats and Republicans in the U.S. Senate rejected rival stopgap proposals, y'all. So because they cannot get along and come to a common agreement, American people out here are going to suffer, unfortunately. I wish that was not the case, y'all. I really wish that was not the case. I don't want to see anybody have to go through this. Hold on one second, y'all. I just know that we could come together and talk about things without being insulting, without trying to blame people, without name calling. And these are supposed to be adults, right? Now, it says while the U.S. government has partially ceased operations more than a dozen times since 1980, President Donald Trump's threats to use the funding lapse to dramatically reduce the size of the public sector have raised the prospect of greater disruption than in prior shutdowns. Now, I don't know if y'all recall, but the last time Donald Trump was in office, they went through a shutdown. And I recall, I think the NBA team came to visit the White House and he ordered a bunch of Big Mac cheeseburgers for them to eat. Y'all, he is a hot mess because the chefs were not working in the White House. I believe that's why they ordered the cheeseburgers from McDonald's, y'all. This man is a freaking, I don't even know what to say. He's interesting, y'all. He's a very interesting character. Speaking to reporters at the White House on Tuesday, Trump warned that he could use the shutdown to take actions that are quote unquote bad for Democrats. But see, we have to understand this is not just bad for Democrats. This is bad. This is going to impact the American people. We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like he said, so cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like, Trump said, adding that a lot of good can come from government shutdowns. All right, so he's talking in code here. So you have to read through what he's saying because there are ramifications for making these decisions. And so pictured here on September 30th, you remember I told you yesterday they had a secret meeting It says here US President Donald Trump speaks to a gathering of top military commanders at the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia. Now, I kind of think that he called these commanders and chiefs there in case there is civil unrest amongst the people. And I believe that maybe he has given the military the go ahead to use whatever force they need to use. I mean, I could be incorrect, but that's just, me prospecting. I don't know. The shutdown, the first such funding lapse since 2018, means that some government services deemed non-essential will halt, including the publication of key economic data and loan approvals for small businesses, you all. So if you have a business, they may not approve your loan. Essential workers such as law enforcement officers, military personnel, and air traffic controllers will remain on the job, but will go without pay for the duration of the shutdown. Now, listen, I am in total disagreement of this. I mean, I know that these are essential workers, but I don't believe that they should have to go without pay. I don't think law enforcement officers should have to go without pay because they do put their lives at risk. If you make a domestic violence call to the home and you're being held at gunpoint, you want someone there to defend you, right? And so these people are doing that free of charge. They're putting their lives at risk, their safety at risk. They have, families that they want to go home to. They have a life that they want to live as well. Military personnel and air traffic controllers. Do you understand how important air traffic controllers are? So they are basically having to work for free, go without pay during the shutdown. How long is the shutdown going to last? So these things do impact the entire nation, and it impacts the American people, you all. And I think, air traffic controllers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers are very essential to this nation. Social Security and food assistance will continue to be paid out, while hundreds of thousands of federal employees were placed on temporary leave and received back pay upon returning to work during previous shutdowns. Trump has threatened to use the current funding lapse to fire a lot of people. And they're Democrats. They're going to be Democrats, Trump said. Man, this is like a war in. Remember the other day I posted the video and I said America's already at war. This is ridiculous, y'all. Richard Painter, the chief White House ethics lawyer under former President George W. Bush, called the threats typical of President Trump's strong arm tactics. He is threatening federal workers with termination if there is a shutdown, Painter told Al Jazeera. Some of what he is threatening he may be able to do, but much of it is not authorized by Congress, including firing federal workers with civil service job protection. Wednesday's shutdown comes after weeks of bickering between Democrats and Republicans over how to keep the government open. Democrats earlier this month rejected a Republican-drafted stopgap spending bill to keep the government running for 9 more weeks, arguing that the measure should include provisions to expand health care coverage, including by extending soon to expire subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, and reversing Medicaid cuts included in Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Republicans have argued that issues like health care should be addressed separately in bipartisan negotiations further down the track. In an 11th hour bid to avert a shutdown on Tuesday, Senate Republicans failed to pass a stopgap bill that would have extended funding until November 21st in a 55 to 45 vote. Two Democrats, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania and Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, as well as Angus King, an independent from Maine, voted with Republicans to advance the bill, which needed 60 votes to pass. Rand Paul, a Republican from Kentucky known for his libertarian views, joined Democrats in opposing the bill. Republicans, in turn, knocked back a Democratic bill that would have extended funding until the end of October and increased spending on health care by more than $1 trillion. That vote failed 47 to 53, with no Republicans in support. I think that it is impossible to predict what Trump is going to do, Gerald Epstein, co-director of the Political Economy Research Institute at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, told Al Jazeera. Will the Dems cave? Probably not for a while. After the failed votes, Republicans and Democrats traded blame for the impasse. Republicans are plunging us into a government shutdown rather than fixing their health care crisis, Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said. Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, accused Republicans of voting to hurt everyday Americans. The recriminations continued after the midnight deadline, with Schumer blaming the Republican shutdown on the party's failure to protect Americans' health care. We're going to keep fighting for the American people, Schumer said. On social media, the White House posted the two words, Democrat shutdown, above an image of a countdown clock reading zero. In an interview with Fox News earlier, Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune expressed hope that enough Democrats would cross the aisle to pass his party's clean bill in a follow up vote on Wednesday. This was all unnecessary. This was all done to satisfy their left political base, Thune said. Including the current funding lapse, the U.S. government has shut down 15 times since 1980, according to the Bipartisan Policy Center. The longest shutdown in U.S. history, lasting 34 days, took place in late 2018 and early 2019 during Trump's first term as presidency. Y'all remember I told you that he shut down when he was in office the first time, right? And I find it very, very harmful, for us to be going through this. Will McLendon said Democrats refuse to remove funding for the illegals. Okay, Will. So I do believe that Democrats should remove funding for illegal citizens because if they're not taxpayers like the rest of us, then why are we paying for them? Because that is we have a whole economic problem here. Healthcare is definitely an issue here. Healthcare insurance is very high, and I think that it needs to be affordable for all Americans because this could be the difference between life and death for some people. You said this is 100% on Chuck. Isn't this the fifth time this exact thing happened? The fat tiger said, we spend more annually on national debt interest than we do on the entire armed forces. Cut the fat. That's kind of ridiculous. Okay, so we don't want to start blaming people like Muslims smell. Why would you type that? This is not what this channel is about. We're not doing that. You said Kirk wasn't a politician. No, I don't think he was a politician. I think he talked about politics. You said you people are giving him all this power and death. No, I'm not really giving him power. He never even had when he was alive, and it's hilarious. He doesn't really have power over me. But you can have your opinion. Epstein, yes, because two people can't have the same last name. That never happens. No, I know people can have the same last name. I was just making a comment. So you seem a little hypersensitive. I hope you have a good day. Okay. No, I didn't delete comments. I think maybe YouTube is doing that. YouTube does censor the comments automatically. So if you posted something, YouTube actually will hide the comments or delete them on their own. Separate it out. You said separate it out and don't shave it through. Okay. No money for illegal citizens. That's why they shut it down. Okay. So definitely I can attest to the fact that I am in agreement with not providing assistance to illegal citizens that did not come, here the way they should have and that are taking from our resources. I do agree with that. I don't think American people should have to suffer and go without pay because this is going on. I don't agree with that. Does anybody know how much a visa costs to get to America? I'm going to look that up. I don't know how much it costs. Visas to America. Let me see what the cost is. Okay. It's saying like $250 or $200. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I was just wondering because somebody told me something a little different. You said we give everything not earned to anti-American trolls who Democrats support in every need. That's why the government shut down. Very interesting take on that, y'all. Um, I don't know. I just really hope they reach some type of agreement real soon because this can be, if it lasts too long, I think it can be very hurtful to the country. And so I'm wondering, is this what this emergency meeting was about on September 30th? Why did they call all of the commanders? They said that's very rare for them to do such a thing. And it can put this country in limbo, leaving the country vulnerable when they do things like that. So I just hope everything gets worked out. I really hope the country can come together. And I do think they need to stop blaming one another and listen more to the American people of what Americans want. This is definitely not something we need is the division right now in this country. We are very, floating on thin ice when it comes to this economy. I do believe that more funding should be put into education. I see that as a, big problem. I also think that healthcare should be, affordable, as I've already stated. I know that a lot of things happened because of the tariffs as well. I know people have been talking about the cost of groceries, and it's just a lot of things that are going on, a lot of changes taking place right now. And I just hope they get it all worked out. He said this country will never come together until leftists stop calling conservatives Nazis. So I don't think that all conservatives are Nazis, kings. I don't think that's the case. I think that people start to get hypersensitive, when people don't see their point or their perspective. When people have a difference in opinion, then they start actually calling names, blaming the other party, instead of trying to have an adult logical conversation. And that leads to a lot of disparaging words. And then people start to shut down. And then, it's almost like you see that other person as your opposition or your opponent instead of seeing them as a citizen of this country, because I think all of us wants to basically have a comfortable life here. I don't think anybody wants to have our country be in this type of limbo. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, very unsettling, and I hope they can quickly get this rectified. That's just my take on it. Those are my thoughts. So we'll see what happens as the days start to unfold. I actually try not to get too carried away whenever things are going on in politics because, as individuals, we have our own lives to worry about on a day to day basis. We're definitely out here trying to thrive, trying to survive, trying to make the best life we can for ourselves. And, hopefully, many people are just trying to contribute to society, making this world a better place. And I think people don't understand we're more similar than we are different. But it's, the views and the thoughts, the ideas that have been propagated in media that actually pits people against one another. So that's the thing that, I wish we could just come together and just have just grown adult logical conversations, where we are calm minded and, just use our words in a way that's not used as like weapons. I'll say that. So that's my take on it, y'all. I really hope they get it together. I don't have much longer on here. I set my timer because I have to leave early. So I only have 25 more minutes. Some of you might stay, some of you might go, but I'm about to change the subject for a second and dig into some other things. Okay. So thank you all for joining the chat. I appreciate your commentary here. And this is not an attack on anyone, but I'm going to get into some stuff and it has to do with a whole different topic. Okay. So if you don't want to stay here, you don't have to. This is not to be offensive to anyone, but I'm going to get into it, y'all. I was doing some research earlier, and also too, I just want to say that when we talk about Republicans and Democrats, one thing that have been coming up over the last course of the few days that I've been, really talking about the shutdown and what's been going on in politics and with Charlie Kirk. And it's not so much that I idolize him or give him power, but I see that he has been a common talking point across social media. And I think that some of his rhetoric did cause divisiveness and division because of the way he delivered his messages. While I do feel that he had some credence to a partial amount of what he was saying, I don't think it was 100% accurate. And I have a right to think that way, just like everybody else have their right to think the way they think. One thing that, everybody stood strong on is the fact that they said that Charlie Kirk was a devout Christian. And I find that sometimes religion, as we talked about yesterday, when that guy shot up the Mormon church, can cause people to act out of angst and hostility. There have been many wars because of religion, right? And so you'll find that sometimes political affairs start resorting to religion. So they'll have like the conservatives saying that we're Christians and this is what we believe. And then you have what they call liberals. These are the titles they give these groups: liberals, the left wing, and Democrats, that are a little bit, they call them more radical, right? So I think religion divides the country as well. But we need to get back to the fabric of where all this came from. You said any brown woman want to try life with a UK man, or really has progressive feminism shot down the reasonable debate in America? Matt Golden, I don't know what you're. Okay, let me read your comment again. You said any brown woman want to try life with a UK man, or really has progressive feminism shot down the reasonable debate in America? Um, that's interesting. I'm trying to understand what you mean by that. And then Steve said, "We'll call you crypto Nazis instead." Okay. I don't know who you're talking to. So I'm going to ignore the chat for a second, because I'm about to delve into something, okay? And so y'all may want to stay, you may want to leave, you may want to go, but we're definitely not going to be disrespectful in the chat. So I might stop reading the comments if y'all get disrespectful, because I don't have time for that today. If it wasn't religion, it would be another adjacent cult following. You see it already on the left. You said I should have said is there. Okay. So you said any brown woman want to try life with a UK man, or really has progressive feminism shot down the reasonable debates in America is there. Oh, is there? Or you mean are there? Are there any brown women that want to try life with a UK man? I don't think it hold on. I'm gonna come on camera and talk to y'all. I don't think it matters, y'all. You said nothing but respect. I don't think it matters where you come from, where you derive from, what continent you come from. I think the thing that really divides us, like I said, you said mega equals fascist. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I went off. Hold on, y'all. I accidentally went off camera for a second. Trying to make this bigger. Okay. I don't think it matters where you live, where you come from, your continent, because we didn't choose. We didn't choose. What I'm trying to say is we didn't choose our. Hold on, y'all. I don't know if y'all can hear me. I don't know if y'all can still hear me or not. My apologies. I'm trying to fix this. Let me know if y'all can still hear me. You said mega equals fascist. The left replaced religion with their dogmatic belief in gender reassignment. Hold on one second. I'm trying to see how to get back on the screen, y'all. Okay. Add to stage. Cancel. Oh, here I go. Sorry about that, y'all. I don't know what happened. I think I accidentally clicked myself off the screen. I was trying to make some adjustments. But I probably should just leave this thing alone before I mess it up too much. I was trying to get rid of the background, y'all. But here I go. All right, sorry about that. So I'm going to do some research into some topics that, some people might find offensive, and it's not to offend people. It's just for educational purposes. Okay. So you may want to stay, you may want to leave, you may want to go. You said brown girls are gone. I don't know what that means. Okay. Anyway, let me get to it, y'all, because I don't have much time. So we're going to delve into Christianity because I see that this has been a heavy topic going on with Republicans and Democrats. You said people on the left don't think about gender reassignment all day long. The left don't have a problem with it. The right really do, though. You said I disappeared. I'm back, Dale. Okay. All right. Yeah. I noticed that, they do bring up the gender thing a lot, this gender reassignment situation, which, my belief on it is that the creator made us who we were designed to be for a reason. Now, if you want to go and alter that, that's on you, and that's between you and your creator. That is on you, because this did not used to be a thing many, many years ago. But I see that it's becoming more and more progressive as time goes on. And sometimes when you start messing with nature, and you can get misaligned, because nature dictates how the world is supposed to go, right? I don't see animals reassigning their sex or their gender. I don't see animals trying to be the opposite of who they are. And I don't think humans should be doing that. Now, what they say is that these people are born this way, and that this is like some type of thing in the brain. I don't know, hormonal imbalance or something. That there are such things as hermaphrodites that are born with both, genitalia, and people can't help that. So I understand. But if you're coming into this world as one gender, I at least think that before you start pushing these narratives, especially on children, because I saw this going on in the school one day. Where this little boy was wearing a tiara on his head in second grade and had his fingernails painted. And I guess his mother was in agreement with it. But now, they are pushing this in the school. So you have to basically call them however they feel that they are. You have to abide by that. But I think that children are so young and impressionable that their brains are still developing, because we all know that their brains are still developing until they get to adult age. We don't want to, I guess, misalign them too early or misidentify them too early, because they might have a change or difference in opinion when they get older. And I think they should be mature. I think they should reach an age of maturity before they start making these decisions that could be permanent. You know, because like we all have different hormones for a reason. We already know females have more estrogen for a reason. Males have more testosterone for a reason, because our divine creator felt that that's what we were meant to have, right? For a reason. We know that men have the testosterone because they have more physical strength and capabilities than a female. Females are more frail, they're more fragile. I don't want to say frail, but fragile. But that's all for a reason, y'all. But females are very strong. Thus childbirth, okay? Because I feel like if you're a female and you give natural childbirth, you can do anything on this planet. I really believe that, y'all. That birth is it's surreal, it's magical. It is a very sensitive and delicate thing. You can die from childbirth. There have been women who have actually died giving birth to their children, and it's a very traumatizing experience, you all. And I think a lot of times people take these things for granted. And now they're trying to reverse the roles, saying that, oh, well, men can have children now. Well, technically, they cannot really have children, because if that were the case, the divine creator would have designed them to bear and have children. But now you have people trying to play God or the creator. So they're going in a laboratory, they're experimenting with people. And you can look this up. They even have people living in bases underneath the ground, and they cross produce them with animals. So they're crossbreed a human with a pig. And you're wondering, how did this happen? Because they're they have experimentation labs underneath the ground, y'all. So this thing really does exist, and people really don't understand how deep this stuff goes. They also experiment with your DNA, and that's why a lot of times I don't really want to give blood unless it's absolutely necessary for my own health, because sometimes you need to get like blood tests and labs so they can see what's going on with your health. They need to look at your hormone levels, make sure that your triglycerides are at a certain level, look at your cholesterol level. But sometimes they can prick your finger for that as well. So we have to be real careful about what they're doing with our DNA, y'all, especially if you're a female and you have a baby at the hospital. They actually save the placenta. I don't mean to be graphic, y'all, because we're going off on a whole different tangent. I had something else planned, which I might have to retitle the video and save it for later because I only have a few more minutes on here. I'm very limited with my time today. But even the placenta, you all, has a lot of nutrients in it. And I did a lot of research. Women aren't really supposed to be giving birth lying down because gravity goes downward. So the baby is coming through the birth canal. So she really should be in a squatting position. This will explain it, because I remember in the delivery room, my sister said, I feel like standing up, right? And they told her to lay back down on the bed. But see, we're going against nature sometimes. We're going against what these people, with Western medicine has told us is the correct way of doing a lot of stuff. So this is why you have people back in the day, they used to do home births. Like I remember, I think my grandmother, and I don't know if my mother was born at home, but back in the day, people used to give birth at home. And they have doulas out here that if you want to do a home birth, you can. But I think people, especially if it's your first time giving birth, you probably want to be in a hospital setting in case something goes awry, because it can be a very vulnerable situation for the mother and the baby, y'all. So it's just really up to your discretion. But I would definitely say do some research. Do some research on that topic. Okay, let me see what y'all are talking about. You said you don't have animals doing surgery or driving cars either. You said there are 0 mammals that can change their biological gender. Okay. Every beating pulse of your likes and dislikes is I love brown and black people, but really, how young is your society? How young is our society? Our society is pretty dated. It's pretty dated. I believe, according to science, according to what they've discovered, I think we predate a lot of people. I think melanated people have been in existence for a very long time, according to what has been taught to us. And this is even according to like going to college, even to like the universities. They say that US civilization dates back to Africa. So I'm just going by that. You said nobody cares about kids finding out who they are except fascists. Surgeons do not operate gender reassignment until kids turn 18 and have 6 months therapy first. Okay. You said unite against hate, war, and dictators. I agree with that, Angel. Okay. This is what exactly I meant about the left replacing their religion. Holiday, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you said, yeah, people are crazy in the year of 2025. Some of these comments, I don't even know what y'all are saying. Andre, well, it's unfortunate that you don't do research. So if you don't know that there are experimental labs, then that's not for me to try to prove it to you. That's for you to research yourself. I'm not here to debate y'all. Okay. Well, Matt, if you think it's young, then why did you ask me the question? Okay. All right. All right. So anyway, I don't have time for ignorant comments. Let me move on. Okay. So like I said, this is going to get into something else. Y'all are going to be triggered, and that's fine too. I'm really not here to be debating y'all. There are hybrids is she? But y'all do your own research. If you don't believe it, you don't have to. I don't really have time to get into ignorance right now. Okay. So anyway, let me keep moving on because I have to do something, in a little while, and I have to go work in education. Okay. So I don't have time for nonsense. Let me keep going. All right. Anyway, let me share my screen. All right. So we're going to get into Dr. Phil Valentine. If you have not heard of Dr. Phil Valentine, I highly suggest for those of you who would like to hear real truth, real history about religion, how this Christianity religion came into place. There are resources out here that can debunk a lot of narratives that were fed to us through indoctrination. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video for y'all.
And that's why you suffer.
All right, 1 second.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, forgive me at this point if you don't see me looking straight at you, because over the last 3 weeks, I have been invested in my books to come up with information for you about Christianity. And I intend in this taping to give you as much as I can within the few hours that we have of everything that I could find, because it'll take me another 5 to 6 hours of another program to keep filling in the dots for you. But what you are going to have here is a scholastic breakdown and the historicities of what you good Christians out there have been worshiping. It is time to logistically put aside, to scholastically put aside, to intellectually put aside this farce called Christianity. Christianity is a hoax. It is time for us to delete our consciousness atmosphere of this presence. Now, why did I call it Vampires of Consciousness? Because that's the name of this particular tape. Vampires of Consciousness, the true historicity of the Church of Satan, Christianity. There is no Church of Satan outside of Christianity. All religion encompasses the Church of Satan. Now, why did I call it Vampires of Consciousness? Well, first, it is essential that we understand the nature of a vampire. We have to understand the nature of a vampire. One, it is a parasite by nature. Two, it feeds on the healthy, the innocent, and the unsuspecting. Three, it appears beautiful, mysterious, alluring, and powerful. Four, it sucks on the life stream of the host, depleting the life and light force until the host no longer knows who he or she is.
So everyone, like I said, this is the truth that you would not get from a Charlie Kirk, right? When these people say, oh, I'm a devout Christian, right? And I'm a conservative and I believe in all humanity, but they really don't, right? Hence, you see them coming into the comment section, making really baseless claims, making a mockery out of like the real history of the fabric of melanated beings and melanated people. Hence the divisiveness that we see in politics, the divisiveness that we see in churches and religion. These people have indoctrinated the entire globe with their lies. And I would really implore a lot of you out here, if you are melanated and if you claim Christian faith, to please do some digging and research on the fabric of where these lies came from. Now, I don't really have time to delve really deeply into this like I want to, but I'm going to tell you to look up Ashra Kwesi and Dr. Phil Valentine. These are the two that I would tell you to look into. And there are more, such as Delbert Blair And there are others that can give you some real information out here that you're not going to get from the church, you all. Now, I'm going to let Dr. Phil Valentine continue to speak, and I'm going to give my respect to this elderly man right here.
5, it affects and infects the host with a virus, quote unquote, until the host becomes one with the body of his Redeemer, one with the consciousness of the vampire. 6, the host loses his sense of self, no longer perceiving the world and reality from a knowledge of self, but from a perception or knowledge given to him by the vampire. That is why I call this particular tape on Christianity the vampires of consciousness. Christianity is crack for the mind and soul.
Okay, I want you to listen to what he said. Why did he say that? Because for so many years, melanated people have been led to Christianity, depending on their faith for everything, because of the atrocities that they've had to go through living in this society with these, savages, right? And we know who the savages are. These are the people that come into the comment section. These are the people in the chat section, spewing out hate, but claim to be Christians, right? The hypocrisy of it all. This would explain why the Bible contradicts itself in certain parts, right? They're not going to tell you the entire truth, right? They only give you the fragmented truth, just like Charlie Kirk only gave you fragmented truth. That's why I say the truth that Charlie Kirk did not want you to know. So let's go back and delve into research, everybody, and history.
It lives in ignorance. Ignorance is the mother of devotion. Let me repeat that. Ignorance is the mother of devotion. That which you are ignorant of, you worship, because you have no knowledge of what you worship. You believe in things you don't understand, and that's why you suffer. Stevie told you, superstition ain't no way. Christianity is crack for the soul. Religion is the crack pipe. You need to go and check the book Edgar Allan Poe, The Pit and the Pendulum. What is The Pit and the Pendulum about? The Pit and the Pendulum was written by Poe about a story told by a prisoner who was in the dungeon of the Spanish Inquisition. In there, they described everything that went on in the Spanish Inquisition. Now, I didn't have all of the different books. I couldn't find it. I couldn't stay in the library long enough, and I couldn't get to all my books. Most of my books are locked away in storage. The ones that I did have, if you could see my room, I wouldn't even bring you up to my room, because my room is like it's like a paper blizzard. I sleep on my work. All right, that's how focused I become.
So I do respect Dr. Phil Valentine, because I know that he does extensive research. So, to anybody out there, my melanated people especially, I want you to stop believing so much in everything that this oppressor tells you, because they are liars. Okay. And we have to actually dig to the bottom of history. We have to go way back in order to, get the truth and navigate through these realm of lies that have been told over the course of centuries and decades. Because as long as there's a propagated lie, they continue to keep you in bondage. When you free your mind, that's when you can have real freedom within yourself. All right. Like I said the other day, this is why the attack is always on the youth with the public education and the school system, is to attack your youth's mind, to tell them these lies out here about these holidays that they've come up with. Christianity is not what you think it is. And this is why I don't claim Christianity, you all. There are people that are going to be offended by it, and I don't care. That's my timer, because really my time is up. I'm going to go a few more minutes and then I'm signing out.
Every time I want to put a particular program together. So I wanted to put together, first and foremost, the books that were banned, deleted, or rejected by the Roman Christian Church as apocryphal. Now, the word apocryphal means uninspired. Uninspired simply means that, okay, this one can get through without telling too much. Here are some of the books that were deleted from the Bible. Now, let me first say this to all you Christians out there who believe that your branch of Christianity is the one that say, oh, well, hey, that's Roman Catholicism. That's them. That's the Catholics. No, it ain't. Because the Catholics are your father and your mother. I don't give a damn what Christianity you worship. I don't give a shit what Bible you use. You are still using the text that came out of the Roman Church under Constantine and the Council of Nicaea at 325. So you can call yourself a Lutheran. You can call yourself a Methodist, Episcopalian. I don't give a shit. You are still a Christian by any other name. You are a branch on the same tree with the same roots. Now,
I forewarned you, so some of y'all might want to leave out of here. You might want to unsubscribe now. Hit dogs are probably going to holler, but this is not going to erase or escape the truth. So let this good man right here, Dr. Phil Valentine, do his thing. Go ahead, Phil, talk to the people.
I can only bring out 26 of the books that were deleted. And they are the Gospels of Thomas and Nicodemus, the Proto-Evangelium of James, the Gospel of the Nativity of Mary, the history of Joseph the Carpenter, the Gospel of the childhood of the Redeemer, the Gospel according to the Egyptians, the Gospel of Bartholomew, the Gospel of Judas Iscariot, the Gospel of the Recollections of Peter, the Gospel of Adam and Eve, the Gospel of Barnabas, the Gospel of Barabbas, the Book of the Nazarenes, the Gospel of the Revelations of Peter, the Gospels of the Shepherd of Hermas, the First Epistle of Clement, the Second Epistle of Clement, the Epistle to Barnabas, the Diatessaron or the Gospel of Tatian, the Gospel of the Essenes, the Revelation of Elias, the Hymn of Jupiter of Clementius, the Proverbs of Sirach, the Book of Abu Dazura, the Gospel of Enoch, and the Gospel of the Infancy of Jesus the Christ.
All right. All right. Give it up for Phil Valentine. I'm going to stop him right there. Now, if you remember, he mentioned Adam and Eve, the Gospel of Adam and Eve. Why is that missing? Well, let's refer to Ashra Kwesi. Shout out to my melanated people in the building. If you know about Ashra Kwesi, you know what I'm saying? Put some stars in the comment section, y'all, if you know about Ashra Kwesi. All right. I told you hit dogs are gonna holler today. I told y'all they're gonna come howling and hooting and hollering, crawling out from the caves from which they derive and the Caucasus Mountains. These Caucasoids can't take the truth. Why did they want to take Adam and Eve out of the Bible? Well, let's let Mr. Ashra Kwesi talk to you for a minute, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, class is in session, church is in session. Let the church say amen. Let me share my screen. Some of y'all might want to get out of the comment section. Yes, Shamir, let's go. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. All right, hold on, y'all. Let me share my screen because I got to get out here real quick. Okay, so here we're gonna see Mr. Ashra Kwesi. know if he's a doctor or not, but he's going to explain the origin of Adam and Eve, right? And like I said, to get back to the fabric of who we are, like that man from the UK was asking me about how young are your people or your society. This predates everybody, even in the universities, which I took a linguistics class taught by a European. He sat up there in front of the class and stood there and told us that the first signs of humanization or civilization was found in Africa. So the hit dogs that don't like you, the hit dogs that can't stand melanated beings and anything that has to do with African descent that looks like brown skin, melanated, dark complected, right? Too bad, because this is from which they derive. All right. So let's let Mr. Ashwa Kwesi talk to y'all for a second. Adam and Eve, remember that was taken out of the Bible. Those books are missing. Let's let him talk.
Our African ancestors, brothers and sisters, saw the matrilineal system. Keep in mind that all the kings had to come through the line of the woman. Is that right? Right. What man can say he didn't come from a woman? Please step forward so we can understand where you came from. So our ancestors had no problem.
You always hear the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Do we ever hear any talk of women? Do we ever hear talk of the maternal? No, we don't. Why did they call this Mother Earth? Think about it, people. Think about how divine the feminine nature is. The fact that she can give birth. We just talked about birth and how some of these men and males want to be women, right? So divine femininity is something to be revered, you all. Let's keep going.
Understanding that divine principle of that sacred womb where we all came from. That was the basis and foundation of the goddess principle and the matrilineal system in Africa. And our ancestors saw, in order for the king to rule the throne, like you have Ursa Ra here, the goddess Shashat. Here you see her in the tree of divine wisdom, giving the fruit of divine knowledge.
Hold up. What did we see in the Christian Bible, y'all? You know, the King James version with the 26 chapters missing. Well, it's right here in history, y'all.
Wisdom in order for him to rule the throne. It had nothing to do with no tree of good and evil. The patriarchs who came from the north, the Hyksos and others who had a misogynistic nature, a hatred towards the woman, could not conceive of a woman nor a goddess giving a man anything. And that story was corrupted. The tree of divine wisdom and divine life was corrupted into the tree of what? Because here we have that they created and their biblical stories and the opening of the pages in Genesis that there was Adam and Eve, is that right? And they were not to eat of the tree of what?
Let the church say amen. I want y'all to put some amens in the chat, my people. Let the church say amen right now.
Knowledge of what? Good and evil. Now, who was seduced by the serpent and ate from the tree? That's why, sisters, you got to watch and hear that sound. But anyway, here we see that she was seduced to eat the fruit, and then she seduced who? Adam. Now, we are told that that's the reason for the world's sins of this first woman eating of the tree of good and evil, and that that's also not only the reason for the world's sins, but her monthly cycle is to remind her of that sin. This is what's taught in the church. Okay? Now, when sisters start jacking that preacher up, who's been equally spiritually enslaved himself, to tell that story, and that we were born in sin. There was no story whatsoever in the Kemetic Nile Valley that we were born in sin. So a few years ago, back in 1988, boy, time is fast. Seemed like I just got this yesterday. Brother and sister showed me. They said, "Hey, brother, Kwesi, you see, there's a black Adam and Eve." Although they made a black Adam and Eve, that has nothing to do with our story. This is what we see the evolutionists and creationists fighting each other, and they know anthropological studies that black people were first, so they put a black Adam and Eve.
Black people were what? Black people were first. Type it in the chat, y'all. Black people were what? Black people were first. So for the UK man, okay, we had to go all the way back to prove our history because they want to lie to us, y'all.
And gave Adam a Jerry curl and gave Eve a weave. You know, they had to be looking good for each other back then, you know. But it had nothing to do with our story, brothers and sisters. Even though they make it black to make you accept it, this is not still an African story. The African story is the goddess Shashat giving the fruit of divine life from the tree of divine life and wisdom in order for the king to rule the throne. And this goddess concept was corrupted throughout the whole African Nile Valley and even in our spiritual subconscious, even today, where we are told that the sisters are the ones, the women are the ones for the world's sins. This is the demonization of women and the hatred of women. This is part of the sexism that you get in the theologians. Even in Paul, it says that women shouldn't even speak in the church. But I'm letting you know that that is not the African spiritual way, brothers and sisters. We had a god and a goddess. That's a spiritual Ma'atian law that our ancestors saw. Okay? So let's understand that there was no rib, by the way, in the African creation story taken from the man to make the woman. That didn't exist. They were created simultaneously. So we did not have no story, but all of us got a navel where the umbilical cord was severed from our mothers, where we all came from. But until we get...
And as a matter of fact, that umbilical cord, they're not even supposed to be cutting that at the hospital, y'all. That's supposed to fall off on its own because the infant is still receiving nutrients from that placenta.
Back to the true spirituality of understanding our divine balance of African men and African women, will forever be a victim in somebody else's racist theological story and the victimization of sisters where we cannot see our divine balance in the universe. Hotel.
Not to Asra crazy, y'all. So anyway, you know, for all the hit dogs out here that are howling and hollering and growling, so sorry for you. But like I said, we predate everybody on this globe. Okay. And so, like I was saying yesterday, how they like to steal and pillage and take things for themselves and make it seem like it's theirs, remix it and give it back to you. This is why you have to do your own research, everybody. I want to give a special shout out to all my new subscribers over here. Thank you to all the divine feminine females who understand their divinity. Remember, I always say walk in your divinity. Understand who you are, women, especially my melanated women. Don't ever let these creature features define and tell you who you are, that you're anything less than divine. To all my melanated men out there, because of your power, your strength, your physical capabilities alone are just immaculate and surpass probably every other, nationality on this globe. I mean, you just dominate everything you do. And I'm going to speak power to my people, no matter who likes or dislikes it. So y'all might want to go ahead and unsubscribe now because a lot of people can't handle the truth. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. All right. I'm going to sign out and close off like that. We'll be back. Class will be in session on another day. We will have church on another day. But all of y'all, I want y'all to continue to walk in your divinity and stay winning, y'all. All right. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Yes, they're gonna howl. They're going to howl. They're going to growl. They're going to be so upset. They're so mad. They're so mad. And you know what? Continue to be mad because it's not going to change anything over here. It's not going to change one thing. Not one thing at all. Y'all can keep being mad. Understand that you took your religion from who? Somebody else. So that's exactly what's going on. And y'all are mad about it. So Charlie Kirk didn't have this knowledge. Y'all go honor your savior, the Kirkster. See if he can do something for you about this religion that was stolen and remixed and retwisted. Anyway, y'all, shout out to everybody. Even my haters, I want to send a special shout out to my haters. We're always going to have haters, y'all. You know how that goes. You know you're doing something right when you have haters. But anyway, I'm going to focus on the positive. I'm about to go out here, make America great, and work with these children, y'all. I have education to go spread, to the children. And we're going to help with the literacy rate and the mathematics out here. Something that predates a lot of these other people before they even started coming into civilization. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I gotta go. But anyway, y'all have a good rest of your day. Continue to walk in your divinity. And as always, celebrate yourself. Stay winning, y'all. Bye.